CJ Stroud was a rookie last year, and he was awesome. Jordan Love was a first-year starter, and he was even better, yet Love is not considered right now to be as good as CJ Stroud. Why?
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook, subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts. You will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Last minute tickets, the lowest price guarantee. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Jordan Love did not make Jeremy Fowler's top 10 list for ESPN, a list compiled by, not Jeremy Fowler, but NFL evaluators, decision makers, coaches. He did make our pal Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino's top 10 list, but 10th over at Locked On NFL Scouting. In each of those lists, though, CJ Stroud was on it, which is to say he was ahead of Jordan Love. And I'm trying to figure out exactly why that is. Because last year, Love was ahead of CJ Stroud in EPA per play, completion percentage above expectation, composite. So you put them together. Success rate, completion percentage above expectation, completion percentage, yards, touchdowns by a lot, Pro Football Focus grade, passing grade, big time throw percentage, turnover-worthy play rate, and he had a lower pressure to sack rate, and they were each awesome in the playoffs. You can't say it was all about consistency, though that has been one of the arguments made in this discussion, because CJ Stroud graded below 60 for Pro Football Focus 4 times. Love did it 3 times, just 1 time after week 5. Stroud had 7 games with a passer rating below 90. Love had 6. So in fact, Love was more consistent, more productive, with the youngest offense in the league, the youngest team in the league, and all of the caveats that I have made for weeks and months on this show. David Bakhtiari, injury. Laremy Tunsil played like an all-pro for the Texans. Christian Watson hurt all year. Nico Collins breaks out as a legit bona fide #1 receiver. The Packers, everyone tells me, they don't have one of those. So why is this happening? I don't want to make this about Love versus Stroud necessarily, but this speaks to a bigger issue. And I've talked and touched on it in the past, but now that these lists are coming out, it's once again at the fore. And one of the big things that I think happens is pre-draft priors take an inordinate amount of stock in these cases. CJ Stroud, everyone thought he was going to be at least a good NFL player. I don't think anyone thought he was going to have one of the great rookie seasons we've seen from a quarterback. But he was certainly seen pre-draft as a better quarterback prospect than Jordan Love. It was also a cool story that a 3-win Texans team, they trade up, they get Will Anderson and CJ Stroud, and both of those guys are awesome right away. They go to the playoffs, they win a playoff game. And now they are this upstart team. They go get Stephon Diggs. I think there's no question that what has happened this offseason and what the expectations are for them now also feeds into this narrative. And the narrative is doing a lot of work here because the expectations for these two quarterbacks coming into the season and the pressure that they faced, metaphorical, not literal, was so different. When Stroud struggled, and by the way, he did. They lost to the Panthers. They lost to the Jets 30-6 in a game where Zach Wilson, yes, that's Zach Wilson, vastly, thoroughly, and depressingly outplayed CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud was dreadful in that game. And I understand that you don't play the same defenses. The Jets defense much better than the Texans defense. But Zach Wilson was awesome and CJ Stroud was terrible. But when that happens for CJ Stroud, what is said is, oh, he's a rookie. We expect some of that. And in our brains, we go, at the end of the year, we go, oh, he was great because he was great for a rookie. We graded him on a scale all year. He was just really good. Flat out, just really good. Not just good for a rookie. He was really good last year. He was spectacular for a rookie. But so our brain, because we graded on a curve that whole time, that all it really sticks in there is he was spectacular. When there were some really bad games, there were some really bad moments, and he was, in fact, just as, if not more inconsistent than Jordan Love last year. But when Jordan Love struggled, and those struggles came early in the year on national television, Thursday night standalone game against the Detroit Lions, Monday night standalone game against the Las Vegas Raiders, those games stick out in people's minds because they were watching them, and they forget that at the end of the year, standalone game, Thursday night or Thursday afternoon against the Lions, dominated them, outplayed Patrick Mahomes, and beat the Super Bowl champs, also on national TV. But when he struggled in that stretch, there was this, well, the Packers botched this. Love is not the guy. And there was the Aaron Rodgers shadow looming over all of this. Oh, this is the guy that they moved on from a 4-time MVP to play. This is the guy that they thought could just take over for Aaron Rodgers. That's ridiculous. Except it wasn't, and it never was. But we get so caught up in our priors that we can't see what is actually happening in front of us on the field. Where Jordan Love was down to down, play to play, the more productive player, the more efficient player, the less turnover prone player, the less negative play prone player. And the last part of this that I hear is, well, one was a rookie and one was in his 4th year in the NFL. And we need to be really, really crystal clear about this. 3 years in the league helped Jordan Love. Like a little. It helped him a little. He had started one more NFL game in his career than CJ Stroud. So you can say trajectory, I think Stroud is going to be better. He's 22. I'd rather have him on a rookie deal than Love. I get that part of it. But coming into the year, they were on much closer footing than is being said. And you can go back and listen to the episodes that we did about that. I didn't think then, and I don't think now, that it mattered that much. 2020 is a lost year, a COVID year. Does not even really count. 2021, still dealing with the COVID stuff. Remember, that's the year that Aaron Rodgers had to sit out with the COVID test. He was positive, and so Jordan Love had to go play. Still very much a COVID season. Everything is different. And it isn't really until 2022 that we start to think, okay, he's going to get an opportunity here. When he finally does, he's excellent against the Eagles. We see the progress, but he didn't even get to play a preseason game until year 2. He didn't play a meaningful NFL snap until year 2. And it was on the road in Kansas City with Devontae Adams coming off of COVID in a week where he wasn't even slated to be the starter when the season started or when the week started. You can go back. I don't know if you can find it, but if you can, search for it first and then tell me if you can find it. For an old company called FanRag, which by the way, Joe Marino and Kyle Crabb also wrote for, I wrote that the idea that 3 games for Jimmy Garoppolo, and remember that was like 2.5 games, was enough to warrant multiple picks. There were people advocating, people I thought were smart, advocating for like 2 first-round picks for Jimmy Garoppolo. because he'd studied at the foot of Tom Brady and all. And I was like, this is nonsense. It's not that valuable. You know what's valuable? Being really talented and playing. That's it. They had not played meaningfully different amounts to make that delta matter. They just hadn't. And I think from a physical tool standpoint, Jordan Love has more of them. I think Jordan Love still has more upside than CJ Stroud, who I think is an awesome player. This isn't even about CJ Stroud. It's about the way Jordan Love is being viewed and talked about even now after the second half that he had, for as good as he looked. There's a lot of yeah buts that are just not being applied equally to other players. And it's foolish. But we are waiting for Jordan Love to get a contract. We have to check in on that. We'll do that next on Locked On Packers. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at BetterHelp. It's very easy to look around and see the things that we don't have. Social media amplifies those fears that we might have inside of us, that other people are doing better or have more or they're happier or whatever it is. Comparison is the thief of joy. It's easy to envision other people's lives through this fake lens that we're often shown it. Therapy can help you focus on what you want instead of what others have, so you can live your life. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's designed online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire and get matched with a licensed therapist, and switch therapists anytime at no additional charge. Stop comparing and start focusing with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all the shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. There is this question, now that we are less than a week from training camp. I did the math. That's right now. And we still don't have a Jordan Love deal. And I know that there is not panic in the streets about this. But I did think it was worth just checking in. And the reason I wanted to do that actually was I was reading about some of the Davante Adams stuff, the way that was handled internally for the Packers. And it was messaged the right way. Brian Gutekunst said, we think Davante Adams is the best receiver in the league, and we want to pay him that way. We just disagree on what that number is. Now, the way Adams tells it, that offer was not made. This is, again, based on some of the comments in the Netflix documentary that Davante Adams is in. Now, the Packers are saying all the right things. Oh, we want to get it done before training camp. And, we're going to get it done. Compare that with how it's being discussed other places. The Dak Prescott situation, for example. Go read some of the things that Jerry Jones has said about that situation. Or the way that Brandon Ayuk is just absolutely going crazy on social media and in interviews talking about the situation there. That is contentious. It doesn't seem that this is contentious. On the other hand, and I'm not trying to add drama where I don't think there is drama. I don't think there is drama. But I didn't think there was drama with Davante Adams either. And there wasn't until the end. But that last year, he knew in August, basically, that it was not going to work out. Played that whole season. The Packers knew, it sounds like, around the combine time, that they were not as close to a deal as they wanted to be, despite the fact that Brian Gutekunst was like, yeah, we expect Aaron Jones to be back. They did. Now, it can be the case that they did until they didn't. that they thought this was Drew Rosenhaus posturing and that eventually they would see, look, a running back in his 30s coming off a season in which you couldn't stay healthy is going to take what we give him. I think it's possible that they thought that. I also think it's possible Brian Gutekunst understands how to message this stuff in the media. So we shouldn't just take that at face value. I've said before on this show, I've been like, Brian Gutekunst is saying one thing, don't believe him. Not accusing him of lying, just, saying, maybe don't believe him or don't take what he says to the bank on everything that is said, because it's all said with purpose. Now, all that said, I don't think there's anything to be worried about here. So, what's the holdup? I have to believe they are in the same neighborhood, and the difference with the Aaron Jones situation is they were in the same neighborhood. It was more about guaranteed money. The Packers wanted it to be more about escalators and incentives, which makes sense for them. But they also didn't really want to re-sign Aaron Jones at a number above like a handful of millions dollars, right? They didn't want to spend Josh Jacobs' money on Aaron Jones. That matters here, and it matters a lot. Because if you're willing to spend, this is not Devontae Adams now. Like, I think the Packers were willing to do 21, 22. They were willing to give him the actual top of market as they saw it, not the fake top of market as made manifest from the DeAndre Hopkins deal, which was not real. Everyone knew it wasn't real, except the receivers that wanted that money. And then both Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill got something close to that money. Devontae didn't quite get there. Tyreek Hill got much closer. And then the market has exploded from there. Justin Jefferson, going to be $30 million. So that's different, though, than 50. The Packers just did this with Aaron Rodgers. They did not want to give Aaron Rodgers all of that money, I'm sure. They did not want to pay him at the top of the market. They did not have a choice. And so the value proposition is just fundamentally different. If you are willing to pay, let's call it $48 million for Aaron Rodgers, and he wants 50, you hope that he'll settle for 49. And if he doesn't, guess what you do? You give him 50, because at the end of the day, there isn't really a material difference. And if this is the face of your franchise and you're going to sell him as the face of your franchise, then if the Packers are saying, well, we'll give you 53, we'll give you the Jared Goff deal, and the Jordan Love camp wants 55. They want the full Joe Burrow, which is really, by the way, like 50, more like 57, 58, if you want to get the percentage of cap right. Then if you can't meet in the middle, you try and meet in the middle, but if you can't, you got to give the money. You got to pay Jordan Love. Like, this isn't we're willing to give him 53, but if he really wants 55 and if you're going to hold on that, well, then we'll let him go into the last year of this deal and just see. No, you can't. You cannot do that. You just can't. It's why I've said all along, Jordan Love has all of the leverage in this situation. The Packers have to pay Jordan Love. And if everyone thinks this is going to get done, and by the way, everyone thinks this is going to get done, then it will, and it will get done at the number closer to what Jordan Love and his camp wants. Now, they could say, hey, cool, we'd like to make this better for everyone, so let's make sure we get the numbers right. And that could be what they're going through right now. This is one of those, the old Andrew Brandt, deadline spur action. Camp is the deadline, which means, it's today, it's tomorrow, it's the next day, it's before Monday, because once Jordan Love shows up on Monday, the Packers don't want every question to Jordan Love the first time he speaks to the media to be about the contract. They want to just get it done. Maybe they want him to have it coincide. He shows up and they have a press conference and they just make it easy for everyone so Jordan Love doesn't have to come 6 days earlier or whatever it is. I doubt that they're like waiting to announce it for that. I've been told it's close, and it's been close. So then it becomes a matter of, okay, is the guaranteed money lever in 2026 a roster bonus or a workout bonus? And how much is in there? And how much can you do at signing? And it's that stuff. It's not the APY, it's the minutia. And that stuff, you can work through stuff like that. Like Joey Bosa insisted on certain guarantees in his rookie deal. It was a unique situation. And eventually he got a lot of what he wanted. Because he was the third overall pick. He's Joey Bosa. And then what are the Chargers going to do? Not sign him? No, they're going to sign it. The Packers are going to sign Jordan Love. Now, there might be some other players out there as we get to camp still worth signing. Well, are there? Today's episode brought to you by our friends at Game Time. It is peak summer heat right now. It is very hot most places in the United States, and that means baseball. Nice cold beer at a baseball game. Make sure you're not in one of those seats if it's a day game where you're going to roast in the sun all day. Like just direct sunlight the whole game. That can be tough. It is fun to be in a bleacher seat though, in the outfield. I love to think that, hey, I'm going to catch a home run. Game Time can get you in the game. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. So with killer last minute deals, all in prices used from your seat and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. With last minute deals, you can get 60% off last minute seats for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. And Game Time, this is so cool. If you find a ticket in the same section and row for less money than it's listed on Game Time, they will credit you 110% of the difference. 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, the lowest price guaranteed. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. So the Packers last year wanted to lean into their youth movement, which I understand. But one of the things we've talked about on this show is that this all changes when your perception of your willingness to compete, your readiness to compete, changes. So how soon into camp are you willing to let these things go? How soon into camp will Javon Bullard have to look ready before you call Quandre Diggs or Justin Simmons? How long into camp can you let it go for Josh Myers to not look like an NFL player or a high-level starter before you call Connor Williams? And that goes for the players already on the team. How far into training camp do you make the switch to Elgton Jenkins if Josh Myers is not going to cut it and it's clear and apparent from the jump that Jordan Morgan is ready to go? Also, that he's not better at tackle than Zach Tom or Rasheed Walker. And the Walker thing, I think, is almost a non-starter because he's got nowhere to go unless Jordan Morgan is just like flatly awesome right away. And even then, I think it would take Rasheed Walker being bad for that to happen. And it's just more reasonable to move Elgton Jenkins. How long do you wait to do that? Or is this, you start priming that pump right away? I guess they've already primed the pump. They already started doing this in the spring. How long do you wait to give Quay Walker the run for his money that Edgerrin Cooper could give him? How long do you wait to make that move? How long do you wait to say, well, Quay Walker, actually, Isaiah McDuffie, we trust him more, so it's going to be him. How long do you wait to make a move like that? To make a change like that? And I'm not saying I have the answers because these things, number one, might not happen because those are counterfactuals. We have an if-then statement. But the other part of this is it does take some time. This is a new team. This isn't last year's team. This is a new team. And it's always going to be changing. It changes week to week. This is the what have you done for me lately league. But it also changes. It's not just what happened yesterday. It's what happened yesterday and the day before. And then what happens tomorrow can be something else and can change the way all of this looks. So this is really more a philosophical question. There are players out there like Quandre Diggs, Justin Simmons. Those guys could start for the Packers tomorrow. What do they cost? And what is the opportunity cost of not having Javon Bullard out there, of not seeing what Evan Williams can do, of not giving Anthony Johnson Jr. the opportunity to compete for that job and scuttle potential long-term development that you're maybe not getting from someone like Quandre Diggs, who's now in his 30s. Connor Williams, a nice NFL offensive lineman. Is he an upgrade over Josh Myers? Do you want to upset the apple cart now, a week before camp, by bringing in a veteran offensive lineman? They did that with Andre Dillard. Andre Dillard gets the opportunity to be the swing tackle. This is another reason why you don't have to rush Jordan Morgan into that tackle spot and say, oh, well, it'd be really nice to have a swing tackle. Rasheed Walker can become that swing tackle. You have Andre Dillard. He can also play some guard for you potentially if you want. So that gives you some insurance. You don't have to rush to make these moves, but the Packers can't approach this camp the same way that they've approached camps in the past, where you're just like, let's just let everyone compete. And this is the team. They're all young guys and we'll just see what happens. That's not where they are. Now, I hope that they use camp as a true proving ground, that they don't just give these spots to Edgerrin Cooper and Jordan Morgan. And Matt LaFleur has proven that they don't really operate like that. I mean, Eric Stokes still had to take Kevin King's job, even though it was obvious he was going to take Kevin King's job. And Elton Jenkins still had to have Lane Taylor suffer an injury before he got on the field as a starter. Sometimes guys can walk right in. Darnell Savage, like there just weren't guys to play there. Javon Bullard is going to be in a similar situation. Like Anthony Johnson Jr. is there, but they drafted 3 safeties. If they thought Anthony Johnson Jr. was going to be a real impediment to Javon Bullard's growth, like they probably wouldn't have drafted 3 guys. They might have taken just Bullard and then let those guys duke it out. That's not where it seems like they think they are from a personnel standpoint. So this changes your approach. And it's a difficult needle to thread because this is still a young team. And you still want to see Anthony Johnson Jr. and you still want to see Josh Myers and give Jordan Morgan an opportunity to learn and adjust and grow and find what is his best position. We don't even know. Is it left guard? Is it left tackle? Is it right guard? We don't know because we haven't seen him. So I don't envy the coaches in this case trying to figure out, okay, what is the right speed? What is the right pacing? It's like showrunners with a story. How do you find the right pacing to make these decisions? What is the cutoff point? Where is the point at which you have to make a decision and make a change? Last year was easy. You didn't let Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft and Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks and Christian Watson and Romeo Dobbs, let them fail. Doesn't matter. Just let them go. This is a different version of that. And it's not the way that it was early in the Matt LaFleur tenure, where you've got Preston Smith and Zadarius Smith and Adrian Amos and Billy Turner coming in, and you go, yeah, these guys are going to start, and it's over, and it doesn't matter. That's not where they are. So this is a new thing. This is a new, it's not really an obstacle, but this is a new issue that Matt LaFleur and the personnel staff are going to have to navigate, because it's something that is done in conjunction. Because the personnel staff might say, hey, who's good? Justin Simmons. And the Packers have to have an internal discussion about the personnel that they have, how much of an upgrade he would be, what it would cost, and then what they think of the guys internally. What do the coaches think? What do the other players think? They're not going to ask the players, but culture matters. So this is not an easy set of decisions that they're going to have to make, but it is a different set than they have had to make in circumstances that they have not been in like this. Back tomorrow, much more here on Locked On Packers. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers, any social media Well, not any of them, but certainly Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, so you can stay Locked On Packers.